Howdy folks, I'm Hank Sheffer, and welcome to another true life story right here with Larry Hedrick on Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.
Today we have a rather unusual story in that the story starts in Italy, of all places. Francisco de Pinado was born in 1890, and as soon as he was old enough, he joined the Italian Naval Academy. And by World War I, he was plotting and flying reconnaissance missions for the Italian military. He was a strong advocate of pontoon planes, and had every opportunity he would promote that type of aircraft. In fact, he didn't even think that you should build a land-based airport and spend all that money when you had all this water surrounding your country. Francisco began to rise in rank and gain influence with his superiors and was convinced them that pontoon planes were very important, and he began to make world record-setting trips, long-range trips across the country. One of his trips was from Italy to across India to Japan and down to Australia and back along the Pacific Rim. And in 1922, Benito Mussolini came into power, and he was basking in Francisco's glory. And he wanted to show off his Air Force to the world, particularly to the United States. Benito was a self-centered, arrogant individual. In fact, I looked him up in the dictionary, and his picture was right next to the word arrogant. Anyway, he arranged with Francisco to make a round-the-world trip. Francisco chose this airplane to do the job. This had a dual engine on top of the wings that had a push and a pull motor at the same time. And the plane was manufactured to take off with a full load at sea level. And this proved to be a problem as we get a little later down the line. He left from an island off the coast of Italy in 1927. And he flew down through Morocco and down the African coast until he could fly across to Brazil. He'd done a tour of South America and was one of the first people, in fact, the very first person, to fly the length of the Amazon River with this seaplane. And then, of course, he went across the Gulf of Mexico and landed in Louisiana, New Orleans. From there, he flew across Texas with a stop or two and into New Mexico, where his stop was at Hill Lake, just south of Truth of Consequences, New Mexico. There, the sea level was at 4,600 feet, and they couldn't get the plane off the surface. He had to dump 250 gallons of fuel, some tools, and some spare parts before he could get the plane airborne. But this necessitated to arrange for another stop, because from New Mexico, the next stop was in San Diego. They had to make a makeshift stop in Arizona. And he mentioned if he could find Canyon Lake, which had just been built, that he could surely find Roosevelt Lake. So evidently they planned to go to Phoenix and come back up the Salt River in order to find these lakes. You got to remember, a seaplane can't land on land. And so therefore, a seaplane looking for a body of water that small is like an airplane looking for an island in the middle of the Pacific. But he finally got to Roosevelt Lake and made his landing, and they started to refuel the plane. And there was a spillage of some type. A young man there who had piloted the boat that towed the seaplane up to the port at Roosevelt Lake was watching the proceeding there. And there was two stories that were written about that. One was that he threw his cigarette in the water and that ignited the flames. But that isn't likely in that big of a space. So we think that the other story, where he lit a cigarette and threw the match in the water, which ignited the flames, and burnt the plane to a crisp, and it sank in 40 foot of water. Well, the engine was later recovered, but Mussolini was not to be stopped by this wonderful media thing that he had going, so he had an identical plane shipped to New York. And Francisco went to New York to get the plane, but by that time, Lindbergh had made his world record flight, and the media attention was all on Lindbergh. So Francisco just simply went back to Italy. He finally got out of the military and came to the United States, and he bought a plane on his own and was fixing to do another long-distance world record-setting flight. But on takeoff, his plane crashed in 1933, and he was killed. Benito Mussolini being involved with the Superstition Mountains is just another little mystery of the Superstition Mountains.
Thank you for watching this episode of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.